A young woman secretly hands a hot meal to the elderly veteran huddled outside the store. No witnesses, no bragging. 1 hour later, the store manager fires her on the spot. We don't serve beggars here. The next morning, as military helicopters shake the entire parking lot, the truth begins to emerge. Would you still help even if it cost you everything? Type yes, if you would. Welcome to QH. Let's uncover what really happened. Sophie Grant, 23, works the night shift at Smart Mart, a small convenience store in the outskirts of Millfield. With gentle brown eyes and a patient smile, she greets every customer the same way, rich or poor. Her family struggles financially since her father's death. 3 months ago, Sophie paused her nursing degree to support her mother, who works 2 cleaning jobs despite her arthritis. In their small apartment, Sophie keeps a journal where she writes daily, "Be kind anyway." It was her grandmother's motto, a reminder that kindness isn't a transaction. It's who you choose to be when nobody's watching. Sophie's coworkers often wonder why she never complains about the long hours or difficult customers. Life's too short to be bitter, she tells them with a shrug. What they don't know is that Sophie's father died while homeless. Too proud to ask for help after losing his job, she promised herself that day that she would never look away from someone in need. Tonight, as rain hammers against the store windows, Sophie doesn't know her life is about to change forever. The clock shows 10. Sophie mops the floor near the entrance when she notices him, an elderly man in a worn military jacket, sheltering from the downpour under the store's narrow awning. His gray hair is plastered to his forehead. He doesn't beg or even look inside. He simply stands there, dignity intact despite the shivering that racks his thin frame. Sophie recognizes something in his posture, the same quiet pride her father had even in his worst moments. She glances at the sandwich display. Store policy requires throwing out unsold food at closing. 3 turkey sandwiches will go to waste tonight. She checks that Mr. Beckett, the manager, is busy in the back office counting the day's receipts. He's made his feelings clear about loiterers many times. They bring down property values, he often says, though he lives in the wealthy part of town. Sophie quietly warms one sandwich in the microwave, adds a cup of hot coffee, and slips out the side door. "Sir," she says softly, "would you like something warm?" The old man looks up, his blue eyes clear despite his weathered face. He doesn't speak but gives a small, dignified nod before accepting the food with steady hands. "Thank you, miss," he whispers finally, his voice surprisingly strong. "Been a long day," Sophie smiles. "It's nothing. Stay dry if you can." As she turns to go back inside, she doesn't notice Miss Beckett, watching through the security camera monitor. 40 minutes later, as Sophie prepares to clock out, Mr. Beckett emerges from his office, face flushed with anger. "In my office, now," he barks. Before Sophie can explain, he's shouting loud enough for the 3 remaining customers to hear. "I saw what you did. Store property isn't yours to give away. We don't serve beggars here." It encourages them. "But it was going to be thrown. Don't argue with me. This store has policies. You're fired, effective immediately. Return your name tag." Sophie removes her badge slowly, places it on the counter, and walks out into the rain without another word. In her heart, she knows she'd do it again. By noon the next day, Mr. Beckett has posted on the Millfield Community Facebook page, "Smart Mart enforces strict policies against employee theft. Remember, enabling vagrancy hurts our community." Sophie's phone buzzes constantly with messages from former coworkers and neighbors. "You could have just given him food from your own lunch," writes Lena, her friend from work. "What were you thinking?" "Jobs are hard to find these days," texts her cousin. Even her mother seems disappointed. "Sophie, honey, your heart is good, but we need that income." At the local diner where Sophie applies for work, the manager's eyes flicker with recognition. "Sorry, no positions available right now." By evening, Sophie discovers someone has posted her picture on a local Facebook group, with the caption, "The sandwich thief steals from employers to feed drifters." Comments pile up. "My sister works at Smart Mart. That man wasn't even a local, probably trying to get TikTok famous with her charity." This generation thinks rules don't apply to them. A few defend her. "It was food going to waste anyway," but they're quickly shouted down. The landlord calls. "Having trouble with this month's rent, Ms. Grant." "I'll have it by Friday," Sophie promises, though she has no idea how. Her mother sighs as they eat ramen noodles for dinner. "Your father was the same way, always helping others before thinking of himself." "Is that such a bad thing?" Sophie asks quietly. "It is when you can't help yourself first," her mother responds, but there's no anger in her voice. Just worry. Sophie walks to the library to use their internet. 5 more job applications, 5 more polite rejections. A local news site has picked up the story. Local business stands firm against handouts. The comment section is a battleground, but the majority seem to agree. Rules exist for a reason. Sophie turns off her phone, curls up on her bed, and cries for the first time since her father's funeral. Not for herself, but for a world where kindness has become controversial. That night, as Sophie hangs up her coat, something small and metallic falls to the floor, a tarnished silver badge. She picks it up, confused. It's a Navy-sealed trident, worn but carefully polished. A small note is folded behind it, written in precise handwriting. Some debts can never be repaid, but they are never forgotten. PNKB. Sophie stares at the badge. Somehow, the old man had slipped this into her coat pocket, without her noticing. She Googles Navy-sealed trident, and reads about the elite military unit, their rigorous training, their code of honor. Who was that man? Sophie places the badge carefully on her nightstand. For the first time since losing her job, she feels a sense of calm certainty. Whatever happens next, she made the right choice. Morning brings more trouble. SmartMart has posted a new sign in their window. No loitering, no handouts. Violators will be prosecuted. The local news runs a small story. Local business takes stand against panhandling. Sophie's former coworker texts. Hall's telling everyone you were caught stealing regularly. It's not right. At the grocery store, a woman Sophie doesn't know whispers to her friend as Sophie passes. That's the girl who got fired. Sophie's mother returns from grocery shopping, shaking her head. People were talking about you at the store. Why couldn't you just follow the rules, Sophie? Sophie touches the trident badge in her pocket. Mom, sometimes the right thing and the easy thing aren't the same. But now we're short on rent money. I'll find another job, I promise. That night, as their apartment grows cold because they're conserving heat, Sophie wraps herself in blankets and writes in her journal. I don't know who he was. I don't need to know. Kindness isn't about recognition, she adds. I would do it again, every time. If you believe kindness should never be punished, type hope. At 7:30 a.m., Sophie is awakened by the distinctive thump, thump, thump of helicopter rotors. She rushes to her window and gasps. 3 military helicopters hover above the SmartMart parking lot. Below them, a convoy of 7 military vehicles, Humvees, and transport trucks, pull into neat formation. Neighbors emerge from their homes, phones raised to record the spectacle. Traffic stops completely on the main road. Sophie's mother bursts into her room. What on earth is happening? The whole town is going crazy. Sophie thinks of the badge on her nightstand and wonders. She throws on clothes and races the 6 blocks to SmartMart, arriving breathless, just as a formation of Marines in dress blues creates a corridor from the lead vehicle to the store entrance. American flags snap in the breeze as a military band begins to play. The crowd falls silent as a tall officer in full decorated uniform steps forward. The insignia on his shoulder identifies him as a colonel. Mr. Beckett emerges from the store, confusion and fear battling on his face. Several news crews have arrived, cameras rolling. Are you the manager of this establishment? The colonel asks, his voice carrying across the now silent parking lot. Yes, sir. Is there a problem? I believe there is. The colonel's voice is calm, but steel-edged. Yesterday evening, one of your employees was terminated after providing sustenance to a gentleman waiting outside your store. Is this correct? Mr. Beckett swallows hard. Store policy clearly states the man your employee assisted. The colonel interrupts. Was Sergeant Major Alton Reeve, Medal of Honor recipient, Navy SEAL Team 6, retired. A murmur ripples through the crowd. Sergeant Major Brooks led the mission that rescued 37 hostages in Baghdad. At Khe Sanh, Vietnam, he carried 3 wounded men through enemy fire after being shot twice himself. The colonel's eyes are piercing now. Last night he was returning from his wife's funeral when his car broke down 2 miles from here. He walked through the rain at age 78, rather than bother anyone for help. The crowd has grown and phones livestream the confrontation across social media. Parents lift children onto their shoulders for a better view. Mr. Beckett's face has drained of all color. Where is Sophie Grant? The colonel asks. Sophie hesitates, then steps forward from the crowd, still wearing her rumpled clothes. I'm here. The colonel turns into everyone's shock, salutes her. Miss Grant, On behalf of the United States Marine Corps and Navy SEALs Association, I want to thank you for your kindness to our brother in arms. From the lead vehicle, a frail but straight-backed elderly man emerged, the same man from last night, but now dressed in a crisp uniform adorned with medals that catch the morning sunlight. Sergeant Major Brooks walks slowly towards Sophie. The entire assembly of military personnel stands at attention. "You didn't know who I was," he says, his voice carrying despite its softness. "You just saw someone who needed help. That's what true character is." He extends his hand. In it is a small box. The Commander-in-Chief sends his personal regard. "Your scholarship to complete your nursing degree has been approved. Full tuition plus expenses." Sophie's eyes fill with tears. "I didn't do it for recognition. That," says Sergeant Major Brooks with a smile, "is precisely why you deserve it." The crowd erupts in cheers. Miss Beckett tries to slip away, but is stopped by a reporter. "Mr. Beckett, how do you feel about firing someone for an act of kindness to a national hero?" The camera catches his stammering response as Sophie's mother pushes through the crowd to embrace her daughter. "I told you," Sophie whispers. "Kindness is never wrong." Her mother nods, tears streaming down her face. "Your father would be so proud. Justice may be late, but it never forgets. If you believe that, type :justice. 6 months later, Sophie walks across in campus in her nursing scrubs. Her clinical rotation starts in an hour at the Veterans Affairs Hospital. The media circus has long since moved on. After the initial viral explosion, over 87 million views across platforms, Sophie declined all interview requests. She even turned down a book deal and an offer to appear on Good Morning America. "The story isn't about me," she told her mother, "it's about what we choose to do when nobody's watching." Students occasionally recognize her. "You're the sandwich girl, right?" they ask. Sophie just smiles and changes the subject. At the Veterans Affairs Hospital, where Sophie now trains, she sometimes sees Sergeant Major Brooks for his checkups. They never discuss that rainy night. Instead, he tells her stories about battlefield medicine and the nurses who saved his life 3 times over. "The world needs healers more than it needs warriors," he tells her. Always has. Sophie finds herself drawn to geriatric care. "The elderly have so much to teach us," she explains to her clinical supervisor, "and they're often the most forgotten." Back at Smart Mart, Mr. Beckett was quietly transferred to another location. New management has implemented the Sophie Grant policy. All food approaching expiration is donated to local shelters. The community response has been overwhelmingly positive. The small plaque outside Smart Mart simply reads, "In honor of silent heroes who choose kindness." No names, no grand statements. Just like Sophie wanted it. On her birthday, a package arrives with no return address. Inside is a first edition of Man's Search for Meaning, by Viktor Frankl. The inscription reads, "To remind you that between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies our freedom to choose." Sophie never tells anyone about the monthly donation she makes to the Veterans Assistance Fund. Exactly the amount of her former Smart Mart salary. Twice a month, she volunteers at the homeless shelter. Many there know her story, but nobody mentions it. They simply nod with respect when she arrives. Her mother has found better work and their financial situation has improved. When they pass people asking for help on the street, they no longer look away. One evening, as autumn leaves scatter across campus, Sophie notices a young girl in a junior ROTC uniform, standing before the Veterans Memorial. The girl places a single flower at its base, then stands at attention for precisely 1 minute. Sophie watches, smiling softly. The circle continues. In her journal that night, Sophie writes, "Kindness isn't heroic, it's human, it's what we owe each other." On the inside cover of her journal, she's taped a fortune cookie message. "Your greatest contribution may be the one no one ever sees." Sometimes, the smallest moments hold the greatest weight. The warmth of a shared glance, the silent nod of acknowledgement, or a meal offered without expectation. These are the foundations of a compassionate world. Sophie understood this truth not through lectures or textbooks, but through life itself. When people ask if she would do it all over again, knowing what would happen, Sophie doesn't hesitate. "Some things," she says, "are always the right choice, regardless of the outcome." Subscribe to keep their silent stories alive. Heroes never fade. In a world that often rushes past silent kindness,
One small act still has the power to echo through generations. Sophie didn't ask for cameras, awards, or recognition. She simply chose to see a man who had once carried the weight of a nation. And that choice, quiet and true, changed everything. Because sometimes the world does notice. Because sometimes kindness wins. We share this story not for likes or shares, but as a reminder. The true measure of character isn't what we do when everyone is watching. It's what we do when we think no one is. It's the sandwich given, the door held, the word of encouragement offered. These moments, small but mighty, are what truly change the world. One silent act at a time. If you believe stories like this deserve a home, subscribe to QH Incredible Stories, where real heroes are never forgotten. We told their story, you gave it meaning. Thank you.